Hello and welcome to the Talk is Jeep show. I'm your host, Art Aldridge, and on this episode, we're going to talk about my big trip to the Rubicon Trail. In the past couple of years, I've lost several close friends due to illness that was unexpected and they were way too young. And it's given me a perspective on life to not wait for your moments. As they say, carpe diem, seize the day. Last year, I pulled the trigger on the Moab Odyssey Jeep Jamboree with Fred Williams. After doing the Moab trip, I really wanted to do Rubicon, and I set out to make that happen for 2025. Wasn't going to be easy. Many things had to line up, including being able to get into the Jamboree before it sold out, making sure the dates didn't conflict with work, making sure my Jeep was up to the task. I needed to have some work done, and also being able to get one of my friends to take 12 days off from work and do the trip with me. I got almost all of those things to align except for one, the Atlas transfer case. You're about to hear from Pete and I as we recount the tale of our trip. Plus, you're going to hear a little bit from Scott and Dale, two guys from San Diego who we met on the Rubicon Jamboree, who share some of their thoughts and feelings about the trip as well. Hope you enjoy it. I look at the trip really as like three parts. We had the journey out with all the anticipation, and then we had the Jamboree or the Rubicon Xtreme expedition part of it, which was intense, and then we had the journey home, which was sort of the reflection on the trip. And we actually we took two different routes out. We going out west, we went out Route 80, which is not a great road,
No,
and there is a lot of just nonsense that associates with driving on that road. But coming back, we opted to take 50 and 70. Was that the right?
50 going through Nevada, called the either the most desolate road in America or the loneliest highway in America. And it lives up to its name.
Absolutely does.
And then Route 70 on the way back, which put us through some of the most gorgeous terrain that I've been through. Aspen, Colorado, Vail, that whole section of Colorado with the ski mountains and things. Some of the highest peaks that we went through.
Yeah.
That to me, it's just like we got transported to another world that we drove there, and I mean, it was a hell of a trip.
Yeah, we did about 600 miles a day. Some days were a little less, some days were a little more, but it was a very demanding pace. I wish we had more leisure, maybe an extra 2 days each way to, just stop where we wanted to and look around a little bit.
I think you could have probably stretched it out for like 6 months.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Now, I had last year gone on a jamboree at Moab, Utah, and that was at that point the most scenic terrain that I've ever um, you know, four-wheeled on, and that was just beautiful. But when we got to, the Sierra Nevadas, that was also pretty spectacular as we were driving up to Georgetown to drop off the trailer and the tow
yeah,
vehicle and get to the jamboree. Like that was very different than anything we have on the East Coast. And I just remember being, pretty fascinated by the beauty of those ponderosa pines and the mountains and the streams. What do you remember about the first day when we checked into the hotel? We had the dinner. We got to meet everyone who was going on the trip. What do you remember about that?
Jeep Jamboree did a great job setting things up. Um, Found it a pretty neat little hotel that set the atmosphere really nicely. I, I I don't know that that they prepare you for what you have ahead of you. I don't know that I think that you're kind of expected to know what kind of terrain that you're going into, what the area is like. But staff I thought was pretty helpful. They were very friendly. I was kind of shocked that there was not more of a an inspection process. Um,
It's more
but
of the honor system.
you don't want to mess up on that. Yeah.
You've not driven on a Jeep Jamboree, but you've been my co-pilot for at least four or five of them.
5, 6, yeah.
Five, six. Um, what did you think of the trail, the four wheeling on the Rubicon Trail?
Well, I mean, day one was I'd rated in the trails that we've done. I don't know, a 6 or so. They were, there were some interesting obstacles. There was a lot of double track and just basically some nice trail jeep routes, but there was nothing overly challenging. Towards the end, I think before we pulled into camp, we started hitting a couple things that had a bit of a challenge. Um, but you've always, as a passenger, I get to sit there and just watch you drive all the time, and it fascinates me how composed you remain. That you're very quiet, you're very determined. You don't say an awful lot, and my goal on this trip was to be as quiet as I could and not howl and make a lot of noises, which I found that it became very helpful because we banged on more things and scraped more skid plates and jolted the Jeep around more than any other trail that we've done. But I think the first day was relatively mild, which got followed up by day two. I think within the first couple hundred yards, I almost lost my leg. I think that we were climbing out of Rubicon Springs, and there was a pretty challenging pass to get up. You had to climb up some rocks, and we almost. And it's always whenever you're climbing up something that's difficult, it always seems that the passenger is on the bottom end of things, and the world's coming at me really close. And at one point, I almost put my foot out to kick myself off a rock because I thought we were going to flip the thing over. But and that's when to me that's when the challenge started was right out of the gate day one, the second day.
The Rubicon Trail is rated a 10, and I think that's the only Jeep Jamboree that has a 10 rating trail. Now, I have always believed that the Catskills Jamboree has some of the most technically challenging trails, and I think theirs, given the conditions with mud and rain or whatever, it might be a 9 at max. But I would venture to say that some of the stuff, not in its entirety, because the Rubicon is one singular trail for 22 miles, where Catskill Mountain Jeep Jamboree is a series of trails that might be 5 miles.
Right.
So I don't think you can categorize them exactly the same, but there are definitely parts of the Catskill Mountains Jamboree that are equivalent to the toughest part of the Rubicon.
Oh, I definitely agree. Um, I would guess that it's a marketing thing. That because all these are sponsored by Jeep Jamboree USA, right? And I think the company's great. I think they did a really good job of presenting it and getting people out there to challenge themselves, and then having them there to know that you're safe and then you're going to get off the trail. But by rating the Rubicon as a 10, I think that's their gold standard. I think it ensures that people are going to be driving out to California to do this trail. Um, that it's they get to wave a flag and say, okay, I've done this trail. I believe that some of the trails that we've done on Catskills have absolutely been equivalent to the degree of
I would
difficulty.
I would suggest that some of these West Coast Jeepers put their Jeeps on a trailer and come east in September. Beautiful time of year, beautiful scenery, and while it might not be exactly the Rubicon, I think it would be equally as challenging at times.
Oh, I believe so. I think there were some parts of the Rubicon that we didn't do that might have offered some challenges.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I will that's a good point that you make. That while I am happy to say that I completed the Rubicon Trail, there are definitely obstacles that we did not do as a group, that were not offered to us for various reasons. I don't claim that, just because I've quote unquote completed the Rubicon Trail, that I'm the best, Jeeper out there, because I know that we definitely didn't do every challenge the Rubicon has, and some of it is like being in a two-door short wheelbase Jeep.
Yep.
It's not really advantageous to attempt some of them. Well, let's take a little sidetrack for a minute. So I had planned for my Jeep to have a new Atlas transfer case installed before the Rubicon, and I had thought I had left plenty of time. I left about 3 months of lead time, and knowing that it was a 60-day lead to get the part in, according to my installer, and it didn't work out after a lot of back and forth. But when we got home from Rubicon, um, the part came in, and I had it installed. And then a couple of weeks later, we got together and we did the Catskill Jamboree with the new transfer case. And
Yeah.
I will say that it was a night and day difference in the way the Jeep approaches obstacles.
It's a game changer. I mean,
Absolutely.
it was obvious to me the minute we took off and hit the trails, but in the Catskill Jamboree. Um, that's the positive side of it. The negative side is it gives you more opportunity to try to kill yourself. Um, because once you chose more difficult trails on that Jamboree, and there was some very, very challenging times there. I think some of what we did on that trail scared me more than just about anything else did. I was shaking.
Now that I have the Atlas, I do want to go back to Rubicon. I do want to go back and try it again and
What time?
see.
What time do you want to go?
I'll pick you up tomorrow morning.
Okay. That Atlas really, really changed the way that you're able to ride the trails. Um,
the
where the
fact the
gear,
the fact that I was able to put it in four low with the 431 gear ratio with my 456 axle gears, and I was idling and climbing up a steep hill, and you said, you're not giving it gas? I said, no, my foot is not on the gas pedal. And this thing just climbed up the hill without any complaints.
I was stunned that it didn't stall or do anything, and it just seems to be calibrated so that you can do it at such a low idle, and it was almost like there's a governor on it, so that when you start hitting, something that's a little bit tougher, and the Jeep starts to bog down a little bit, it gives it just that extra goose to get over it and keep moving. I totally blown away with what you could do with the Atlas, and I think it really opens things up for you. Gonna present some challenges that you haven't taken so far.
Yeah.
I think it's a whole new world.
Well, we did the trail in reverse. So when we started, we went to the end of the trail, not the trail head, but the trail tail. But
Right.
driving to the trail tail along Lake Tahoe and along that little highway
It's
or that
stunning.
roadway was absolutely stunning.
It was the gorgeous homes that are all in there. Just wondering, who lives there, um, who can afford to live there. But yeah, I mean, there was the one peak that we went around. We went around a bend, and
Yeah.
you look up, and there was this huge rock face that just came out of nowhere. I know we stopped and took well, I don't think we stopped, but we did get a
Yeah.
picture of it.
Yeah. We got video of that.
But beautiful. I mean, driving the Sierra Nevadas were just absolutely gorgeous. Very different than the route out. I think really once you leave, you're still in the desert, and it's just those dry, dusty mountains and rock and whatever. And it's really not until you get into California and you hit that border that all of a sudden you're seeing the trees. You got your ponderosas and your tamaracks and all those other gorgeous trees that have been there for 1,000 years. Um, and the trail itself is just in the middle of all that. And then you get to see some of the streams and the water that's up there, and it's just so picturesque. That's gorgeous. I was pretty impressed with just how well kept the trail was. That they do a really good job of maintaining the trail, keeping people from leaving it, and abiding by the rules.
It's the lake itself is what the deepest Clearwater lake, or I mean, there's some great statistics about the lake alone, let alone the whole thing. And then from the lake, you go over the mountains and you get into gold country. And I mean, there's so much history about the 1849 gold rush, and it ended right there close to Georgetown. So I have to echo the uniqueness of the area makes it incredible.
The one thing that I kept having to check myself is I wanted to look at the scenery. And the minute you took your eyes off the trail, there would be a rock that could easily catch your oil pan or your diff or something. Like, you really had to pay attention to the trail. But the scenery was just drawing my eye every which way.
Oh
And
my
everywhere
goodness,
you
yeah.
looked, there was something to look at.
Yeah, and it was a gorgeous weekend that we did it on, or the weekday. But the 3 days that we were on the trail, blue skies, beautiful clouds. I mean, the contrast was there. So you got these gorgeous green trees, the starkness of the White Mountains, um, and the water all looking just really beautiful blue. It was just so picturesque. It was just meant for taking pictures and just loving the beauty of it. Part of my responsibility was to let you know when you were about to die. Um, and you really didn't pay very much attention to any of that. Like I kind of
You
remember
can't, you
barking,
can't, you can't, you can't get bogged down with those details.
kind of barked at me one time.
Did I?
Yeah, the like the scariest part of the trip, that the time that you were up on one wheel.
Where I was rocking back and forth.
Yeah, took 3 or 4 attempts to get over that obstacle, to get over the ledge, and which with your new transfer case, I think you would have walked over that the first time.
I would have.
But with the gearing that you had, you would hit these things and have to really maneuver over it, really kind of goose it over lightly, and playing with the clutch and just really trying to gently get over this thing without flipping it. And again, you're up on the high side, I'm on the bottom of it, and there's nothing but a mountain cliff right off of my side. And every time that you stall it, the Jeep would shudder a little bit, go more sideways, getting closer to the edge of the cliff. And we were kind of pitched up pretty high. And you were just so intent of getting over the obstacle that I really don't think you understood what kind of a precarious position we were in, until we met up with the rest of the crew. And the guy that was behind us that was watching you said, "Art, what in God's name were you doing?" And you're like, "What?" They said, and that's what he told you. You were on one wheel at one point. And I just kind of shook my head and said, "Uh-huh, we almost died."
Well, that was true. I was focused on the task at hand, which was getting over the obstacle.
And you got
I got over
and
it.
you did it. You certainly did it.
On this trail, it felt like the obstacles were narrow and crooked. On many of the other trails I take, you line up just kind of once and you just do the obstacle and you're done. And this was like an obstacle after an obstacle in crooked positions. So you could get your front around that rock, but your rear tire was, unless you planned it right, your rear tire was going to be right against the rock. And I didn't have any body damage other than this trip. This Rubicon was the first time I have ever bent one of my rock rails, and I came down hard enough to bend a rock rail. It was challenging. I liked it.
What did you think about the camping component on the Rubicon?
Springs was gorgeous. You couldn't ask for a more picturesque place to have a camp out. Um, the river's right. We put our tent right next to the river. Um, you're nestled in there, and with the pines, it was quiet. Um, Plenty of space there. I would have a hard time picturing being in a week or two before that. They said they had 1,200 people. I don't think I'd want to be there. I thought the group that we had, 10 Jeeps, was perfect.
And I was totally impressed with the Jeep Jamboree guys. Was totally impressed with what they could do, how they could direct you through a trail. And so that's why when the Rubicon came up, it was something I'd always have in the back of my mind. But when I knew it was only 10 or 12 Jeeps, that's what excited me.
My first experience was also with the Jeep Jamboree, but it was the bigger Jamboree. My experience was a much more, uh, let's say, intimate experience in that we could spend more time along the trail. My 2 year earlier experience, or 3 year, I guess, earlier experience was with perhaps could have been as much as 100 Jeeps. I'm not sure, maybe 80. We were broken into 3 separate groups, so um, maybe 30 Jeeps in a group. And so I felt rushed. I felt like I had to keep up. I couldn't stop and enjoy the view as much as we did on the experience we had more recently. It's the Rubicon. I mean, it was a wonderful trip. I'm not taking anything away from it, but it was a different experience. Might consider it a cattle call versus this much more smaller Jeep experience that we had.
That's what was special about this particular Jamboree, is that, it was limited to 10 Jeeps plus the guides.
Yeah.
And we went, we spoke with one guy who had been on the regular Rubicon, and he said it was, just wall to wall people.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine just getting all the convoy of Jeeps through the obstacles must have taken so much time.
Oh, definitely. I think it would take away from an awful lot of it.
Absolutely.
I think the group that we had, everybody's skills seemed to be pretty good. I didn't see anybody who was towering head and shoulders above anybody else. I think everybody handled the challenges pretty equally. It was interesting to see how some of the different Jeeps handle things differently. Like we talked about, you mentioned the soup ball. I think that was an obstacle that was meant for a long wheelbase Jeep. But I think the trail changes over a period of time, and being that you have so many vehicles that take that a lot of these obstacles have to have rocks in the right place. That you would change and put bigger tires on your Jeep before we went. So you're running 37s and doing the soup ball. I think the 2 or 3 people that we watched try to climb it, uh, just just couldn't do it. They were very, very close. And at one point it seemed that if they had 40s, that the tire would have grabbed and it would have been able to pull them up and clear the obstacle. But I think a lot of that is going to change as the seasons passed.
All right, this is the campsite. All good. This is the all good campsite.
Amen.
This is Mr. Goodman.
Hello, world.
This is our tent. Got a couple of cots in there. I got an inflatable pillow, and we got this beautiful spring lake here right behind the tent. And then up there, where the red, white, and blue is, that's going to be dinner. I think the fact that we fit everything into a two-door Jeep was probably one of the biggest achievements of the trip.
Yeah.
Because these most of these guys had 4 doors, and they had rooftop things. We were just top down, doors off. You know,
It would have been, yeah. I don't think that could have been better.
Wow.
I mean, we had some great guides, and some of the guides had, generational history
Yeah.
on the Rubicon. Landowners, property owners, and to hear some of the stories, you know, from, you know, authentic people was quite special.
The one guy that we walked around with at Rubicon Springs who gave me the chance to drink that lovely spring water.
Yes. And you didn't
Um,
get botulism.
no, I lived through it.
You did.
Uh, I took the guide's word. You can drink this, it's good for you. Had anybody else told me that, I probably would have doubted it. Um, the one spring looked like they were dragging it through somebody's septic. Uh, not appealing at all. But I had crawled off with him after dinner the night that we stayed there, and then there was this one platform with a large rock face, and they had plaques put up on the wall, and the plaques had all the people who've passed who have put their heart into that place. A lot of the landowners for the Rubicon Springs area, I think there's about 400 acres that they've salvaged. Um, and he was kind of pointing out that he used to do the guide that I was with used to do this every year with his dad, and then as his dad's gotten older, anytime he gets off the trail, the first place he goes is to go to his dad's house and say, "Okay, here's how this trip went," because his father just lived it. It is part of his life, and the guy's pointing out a spot on this huge rock wall with, I don't know, 30 or 40 plaques on it, and he's pointing at a spot saying, "This is where my dad's plaque is going to go." Because this is what he wants, this is where he wants to be. And it really set home how much people put into it. And a lot of these are people who I think, born and raised in that area and have spent their life on the trail, and they've dedicated themselves to making sure that it stays open. And the guy, he was the only one that was allowed to put his trailer at Rubicon Springs and leave it there. He was the camp chef, and he had just incredible stories, and it really made you feel like this is a very special place to be.
Here was the most ironic part of the trip for me was that, we banged it around for, 3 days. And then we get to the end, we have a little wrap out lunch, say goodbye to everybody. And as I'm driving out of the parking lot, basically, my air tank had fallen off the bracket
Yeah.
without me knowing it. And we get to the headquarters of Jeep Jamboree, which is where I stored my trailer and tow vehicle. And I get a call and said, "Hey, we we found your air tank." I was like, "What?"
And you're also forgetting that your external little gas
Well, that
container.
was that was the second thing is that I had a rotopack on that we lost on the highway going back to Georgetown. So these things were bolted to the Jeep, strapped in, locked in, made it the whole Rubicon Trail, getting pounded, and yet we get off the trail and I lose two things. I didn't get the rotopack back. I had to sink another $100 and get a replacement. But
100 bucks for a rotopack?
yeah,
Holy cow.
yeah.
But you did get your air tank back.
I did get my air tank back, which was great. Kudos to the Jeep Jamboree staff. They put it in a box and shipped it back to me, and it was awesome.
The whole trip was flawless. Um, your tow vehicle, the trailer, all of that. The scenery on the way out, the trail itself, the having an opportunity to be there. I mean, I'm advancing in age. We both are, but I got you by a few. It's something that you're not going to, how often are you going to have the opportunity to do these things?
Yeah.
And it just fell at a perfect point in my life. And to spend, 12 days with my good buddy that I've known forever. Um, I just, it was such a treat for me that, I couldn't ask for anything beyond that. It'd be hard to surpass. It'd be hard to do it again and ask to have it at the same quality,
Right.
to
I
beat
agree.
that.
I agree. There's not too many people that I could have spent those 12 or 14 days with. And to you, I say thank you and cheers. And
Cheers.
I did enjoy the entire trip with you. And I hope we do get to do it again, but there's no givens in this world. All I can say is that the Rubicon Trail is a very special place, not just for off roading, but the history of it, the heritage, the legacy, the fact that it is a proving ground for Jeep for their Rubicon model. All of that just makes it a bucket list trip. I'm very glad I did it. I would jump at the opportunity to go back, especially now that I've got my Atlas transfer case. Though, many things again would have to line up, and there's no no guarantees that it would. But someone asked me, why do you pay to do a Jeep Jamboree when you can just take your Jeep out there and go on the trail? And that's true with the Rubicon because it is a public accessible roadway. But I don't recommend doing it alone. Way too dangerous. But obviously, there's many groups that go out there that are not guided, just off-road enthusiasts who are using the trail. But for me, um, there's a safety factor. There's a comfort in knowing that I've got the reputation of Jeep Jamboree behind me. The guides were explaining during dinner one night that the network of storage locations and parts and people that they have standing by to assist if you break something on the trail really gives me a lot of comfort. They said that there's never been anything that they've had happen on the trail breakage wise that they couldn't fix. And that's why I feel comfortable doing a Jeep Jamboree, knowing I'm not going to get stuck, not going to have to figure it out on my own. If I break something, they're there to, help get the Jeep back in running or at least off the trail. In fact, when we were there, we hit one location where there was a burned out Cherokee that had a mechanical problem. It was just, stuck there until the owner could figure out how to get it out. Jeep Jamboree, that wouldn't be an issue. That's all for now. See you next time.